Alright, I'm going to go over some deformers today and mostly how to use them for modeling stuff. The first thing you want to be aware of with deformers is the amount of geometry you have in your piece does matter. So if we go up to the modeling menu and go deform, the ones we're looking for, I'm mostly going to go over today are the nonlinear deformers. So I'll do the twist one real quick. We'll just go ahead and apply that. You'll see it adds like a little twist handle here. And if we click in our outliner, you can see there are some different random angles for this. And if we, scrub through those, you can see that it is doing something to the geometry. It looks pretty wonky though. And again, that is because, especially like if you go, like this is pretty darn broken. The reason that that's happening is there's just not enough geometry in this piece to reasonably support this movement, right? So if we look at this square, or this rectangle thing, I guess, you'll see it's literally just a cube. It's just a long cube, basically. There's no subdivisions or anything like that in the middle. And for this twist deformer to work effectively, you need subdivisions in the middle. So if we go in and we add some more subdivisions like this, and then we go in and we mess with this twist handle, now you'll see we actually get like a, nice looking helix thing here. So that's the first thing just to be aware of all deformers. If they're ever not doing what you want, just make sure you have enough geometry in there so that they actually have enough data to sort of manipulate and move as they are trying to move things. The other thing, and this is pretty much, standard with all the deformers basically, is the low bound and high bound. So you can mess with these, and it basically just decides like where does this deformer stop working. So 0 is the default, the middle of the object, so theoretically you could set this to like -0.5, or you can, not do that. It doesn't let you do that apparently. But you can mess with this to sort of change the overall, twist of your thing. Maybe if you're making some kind of weird little wrought iron fence or something like that, you could change the low bound so that, oof, that's super ugly. You could change the low bound a little bit so that you have, your normal fence, then it twists a little bit, and then it goes back to being a fence. I feel like that would be a more effective example if this looked anything like a fence post. But that's honestly like the basic thing with deformers. You can shift these around. So I'm just moving the deformer itself, and the cube is staying in place. And you'll see that that is pretty dramatically affecting the object. So do be aware of that. If you want to move the object and keep the original shape, you do need to move them both at the same time. And the easiest way to do that, I found, is just grab the twist handle and parent it under the cube. So if you grab the cube, it'll move the twist handle. Alternately, if you want, you can sort of have, you can move the object itself, and it'll sort of like ripple as it moves through your deformer. So you see it's sort of like going and like twisting itself as you move it. So there's different weird effects you can get with this. None of them are super interesting I'm not going to say none of them are useful for modeling, but I feel like a lot of this stuff is more useful for animation. But anywho, it exists. So that is, let's see, pretty much the basics of this particular deformer. You can change the twist of both ends. So you can start with the end angle or the start angle. Start will twist the bottom, end will twist the top. And then you can stack multiple deformers on top of each other. I'll get to that, I guess, in a later video. The only other thing I do want to mention is if you are ever happy with this object and you no longer want it to deform, there's a few ways that you can sort of save this object. So by default, if you delete this twist handle, it's going to delete also all of the changes that handle has made to your object. So to copy an object, usually what I do is, I usually duplicate it, and that way you can just move this little duplicated object around as you want, and you can stash this, for later, just hide it in case you ever need to make modifications to this. You have the original objects. The other option that you have is to just take your original object. There's a cat rampaging aggressively in the background. Sorry. Take your original object and just delete history on it. Good lord. So you can do edit, delete by type history, alternately Alt-Shift-D for the hotkeys. Cat, I am trying to do productive things. And you'll notice that has actually gotten rid of the handle entirely in the outliner. And, we can move this around and do whatever with it without it affecting the object. So that is the basic, just sort of how to work with these nonlinear deformers. I'll go over some of the other ones in the other video, but that's, you know, they all more or less function the same way in terms of the settings that they have.